Buddy, this is going to be hopefully, first of all, happy Labor Day, and thank you for joining Zinni62 live stream. And I should have hashtagged it live stream. Ooh, forgot to do that. I think this is going to be a difficult one, and I think it'll be difficult because of what has transpired over the past weekend. And first of all, I think I'll start it all off by going to what happened today at the press conference. John Gruden gave a press conference today at Raider headquarters in Alameda, and he basically did what how do I say? He did, and the Raiders did what Israel did when, after it dropped bombs on Gaza, it held a press conference. Okay, that's what you do when you know you've made an asinine move and people are responding to it. PR 101, you make a press conference as soon as possible. You take the question hits and you move on. That's what happened with that. But that doesn't mean it was a good thing to do, okay? It doesn't mean it was something to do that was logical. And it opens up a lot of questions. Coach Gruden in his press conference about the play for you said, hey, I know a lot of people are going to do second guessing. No one's going to second guess. But there's going to be a lot of second guessing. No, because second guess means, hey, you could have done X. What people are saying is not you could have done. They say what people are saying is you should not have done. So no one's questioning. People are criticizing. There's a difference. Second guessing is a nice, benign kind of exchange, right? Well, you should have considered this. No, that's not what's going on. People are saying, let's see. AS says, thank you, Raiders. Mack is the perfect fit on an already good defense. And T. Cooper says, no, you aren't. Hey, everybody. This is wrapping up rather quickly. Javier, you're not the only one here at all. And I'm going to start off in the perfect vein of what I was talking about by explaining to you the title of this video, of this live stream. And it goes like this. The Raiders had no problem paying $100 million to John Gruden. They had no problem giving a top dollar bit of coin to Derek Carr. But when it came to Khalil Mack, the Raiders put on the brakes. And I'm going to forecast this, given what I'm saying. The Raiders are not going to pay top dollar to Amari Cooper either. Okay? I repeat, because a friend of mine, they've got Amari Cooper's contract coming up. They're not going to offer him top dollar. He's going to be allowed to be shipped off someplace else too. So the Raiders, I'm going to say this straight out, when it comes to African-American players of late, the Raiders under this regime seem like, and you tell me if you think that I'm wrong, and I'm happy to discuss it, that they have a problem coming up with top dollar for star Black athletes, either to maintain on their organization, on their roster, or to bring in. I mean, let me give you another example, all right? Cortland Sutton is a wide receiver, Denver Broncos pick, and I said that Cortland Sutton should have been pursued by the Raiders. Hey, first round, make sure you secure him because he's going to be a fantastic wide receiver. I personally told that to Raiders GM Reggie McKenzie at the NFL annual meeting. Last year, I said, hey, get Cam Robinson because Cam Robinson is going to be an all-pro. So he skipped Cam Robinson, he went to Galeon Conley, who's injured. Meanwhile, Cam Robinson goes on to be an all-pro. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know that story. So I repeated it. This year, I called it again, Courtland Sutton. So what does Courtland Sutton do? He gets in the camp with Broncos and Buffalo, right? Hey, everybody. Hey, Joseph Bensman. Hey, Joe Davis. Hey, Javier Cruz. I'll go back and say and get all your comments in a second. I just want to set up the discussion. But they don't get either one of them. And yet, look, anyone who's got half a brain would see this Khalil Mack situation coming. The Raiders should not even express the idea that they were surprised. And to say that they're far off begs the question, if everyone else in the league believes that Khalil Mack deserves that kind of coin, why then would the Raiders think, hey, you know what, we're far off? The Bears immediately secure Khalil Mack and have no problem throwing money at him. Okay, that tells you right there's a problem. And then they released AJ Manuel, who would have been the backup, okay? He would have been the backup. And instead bring in AJ McCarron, who has just been the epitome of the journeyman quarterback. You know, the only thing AJ McCarron brings to the Raiders is, other than, having played with Amari Cooper at Alabama, fine, is a pop culture little thing where Brent Musburger said, oh, wow, his wife looks great when she was Miss Alabama at Alabama, right? Jeez. I mean, none of this makes any sense. You're trying to make sense of it. But I'm saying, and I'm not saying that what the Raiders did was deliberate. I'm saying it's a pattern. It may very well be benign, but there's a pattern where when it comes to top dollar athletes who happen to be black, the Raiders do not spend money to either retain them or obtain them. And it's starting, and why would you, when you have these extremes, like you spend $100 million on an unproven coach, let's face it, John Gruden is unproven, okay? And yet you guaranteed money. And yet you can't spend $100 million guaranteed on your defensive end, and you say you didn't see this coming? So you're telling me that your unproven, decades removed long from the game coach is more valuable than a man that many regard as the best defensive end / linebacker in the NFL? That's the statement the Raiders made with their actions. And there's the old saying that actions speak louder than words. Now, with that, I'll meet your comments and then I'll get to the Gruden presser. I know Raider guy says we got to give Gruden a chance. Whatever. But I'm sorry, I don't know Raider guy. I'll read your comment in full. We got to give Gruden a chance. Give him a few games to see how they do. Remember, we never really missed the playoffs with Gruden. Yeah, but that was a while ago. Okay. And John Davis, that was a long while ago. All right. And John Davis says, out backup quarterbacks were horrible. I don't know anything about new QB, but say it's black and white is horrible. John Davis, the last game, EJ Manuel didn't play a horrible game. He was 18 of 22, 255 yards. He had a 1.54 quarterback rating, which is about as high as you can go. Okay. So to say that the backup quarterbacks players were horrible is a stupid comment. I'm just sorry to be insulting, but it's infuriatingly ridiculous. The numbers bear out that EJ Manuel did a fine job. Connor Cook did not. We saw that pattern. We talked about it here. You weren't watching the game. Either that or you don't know how to watch football. I'm sorry. I'm pissed off about that. I really am. So, all right. Kevin KD says, it reminds me of how Al Davis would go Southern schools and give black players more money to ingratiate himself to him. They believe that whenever black should be I can't quite read that because part of my contact lenses are bad. It says, so bear with me. It says, they believe that whenever blacks should be fast factory for them. I can't quite understand that one. That was written weirdly. Javier Cruz says, what the other games tell me about how good he was then? Overall, he was bad. Connor Cook, he was not bad. I mean, excuse me, Connor Cook was bad, yeah. EJ Manuel was not bad. No, I don't know where you got that from. EJ Manuel was not bad. And to say that EJ Manuel was bad when he put up those numbers, and then to forget that the man's been trained in an offense that was just installed this year, the fuck are you talking about? This is completely stupid. It just is. Okay? Jeez. I mean, come on, man. Bring some common sense. You know better than that. It's ridiculous. I mean, if we were having dinner and you said that and I showed you the film, you would say, yeah, Zenny, that was a stupid thing that I said. So technically we are having dinner because I showed you the stats. That's ridiculous. I mean, I just can't even fathom why that would come out of your head. I just can't. I mean, everyone agrees that EJ Emanuel had a lock on the backup job. Everyone. Okay? So for you to come along with that, I mean, you're an outlier. Just saying, all right? So love you, man. Which is why I think I responded that way, because I was like, John Davis did not just write that, did he? Maybe he did. Whatever. So anyway, okay. Muhammad says, you never trade within division. What's the highest? That part, Zenny, I agree with you. Thank you, T. Cooper. Oh, no, Raider guy says, because Connor Cook, who's the main backup now? AJ McCarron, an unproven guy who doesn't know the playbook. Will Mus Bliss said, did we cut Cook? Yes, we did. Cook is gone. And hey, Javier, thank you very much for the investment. You and Patrick Blackman shares. And the game EJ Manuel lost wasn't his fault. The games he lost, well, he didn't. Let's put things in perspective, okay? EJ Manuel played 2 games for John Gruden, 4 for John Gruden. That's it. This is a brand new offense, okay? This is a brand new offense. And by all accounts, he did well, really starting the second, third game in, and in the fourth game, he started to perform much better. But so by the last game, it was clear he got it. Boom. So if you want people in your stead who understand your offense, why would you junk somebody who you spend a lot of time and money training in your offense for a guy that you spent no time training in your offense? That makes no sense whatsoever, unless, of course, EJ Manuel went off and said something to them that really bugged them after they made the decision to trade Khalil Mack, which would not surprise me. It also would not speak well of the Raiders if they did that. But look, it's like, hey, you're insulting us. Oh, my goodness, you're insulting my ego. I'm going to get rid of you. You're gone. That would make a great deal of sense, because because under normal circumstances, EJ Manuel should still be a Raider. Either that, or maybe they believe that he should start, and so they release him so he'll get picked up by somebody else. This still doesn't make any sense. I mean, all these ways you think about it, it just doesn't kind of, gel, okay? It just doesn't make any sense, because, again, you still have to ask the second part of the action, which you still have to ask a question regarding the second part of the action, which is, why AJ McCarron? And don't give me this throwing to Amari Cooper crap. I'm not buying that. So, Oakland plays a 4-3. My problem is how do the Raiders, being in the Bay Area, have an issue with sponsorship? What is management doing? Muhammad, that's the question of the day. And, and I wrote the title really to get your attention, but my real concern is really with how the Raiders are ran, okay? Because I believe that the Raiders have a gigantic management problem, just sticking out there. And so anyway, you're here. We all are here. Let me go to the video room, and let's painfully take a look at. You got it. What happened there? Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna tee this up, and I think it's look. Let me stop this for a second, and then let me plug in the speaker. It's a difficult day, difficult week, and we're all family, as I like to remind us. We're all Raider fan family, so we'll all get over this. But look, we got to argue, okay? We got to have a knockdown, drag out argument. I don't mean like physical knockdown, drag out. I mean intellectually. Like, are you stupid? What the heck is wrong with you, dude? Why did you you right? That's what I'm talking about. It's not second guessing, coach. This is arguing. All right. This is arguing straight up. All right, here we go. All right.
Last draft or next year's draft?
Well, first of all, I'd like to wish Khalil well. He was a great player for us, a great person, a great teammate. I did have contact with him yesterday too, exchanging, our best wishes to him and thanking him for being a great Oakland Raider. But the negotiation was what it was. It was tough. It was a long process. We talked about it daily. We made an offer. I don't believe we were anywhere close to where the Bears were. And the Bears made us an offer that we thought was really unique and very, very tough to say goodbye to a great player. But here we are today.
Well, why not just wait to see if he would report?
We have waited. We waited and waited, and the Rams game was looming. Our feeling was, he was not going to report anytime soon. And like I said, I saw the Redskins go through with Kirk Cousins. It was a long process. You can wait it out. You can franchise them. You can force them to play. But we made a decision, and we're going to stand by it.
Conveying that to the talking to the guys was feel like you had to address that.
Yeah, I addressed it with the team, and he's a great player and a good teammate, and a lot of these guys were very good friends with him. So it was tough, but he's been gone for some time. And like I said, we wish him the best. We have to build this football team. We have a lot of needs, and we'll address them as we see fit. But it's never easy saying goodbye to anybody, especially a great player.
And you made it clear starting at the first press conference that you had here that you want to win in 2 years that you're here in Oakland. How does this affect your ability to do that?
Well, it's tough. It wasn't my goal to trade Khalil when we got here. One of the reasons I'm here is because of him. Unfortunately, we had a standoff with the contract, and we could not come to terms. And the Bears made us an offer of 2 first-round draft choices, and here we are today. We have to put together a 53-man roster. It's hard. Salary cap issues do exist. And there is an economic part of this thing, too, that you have to sit down and study, and you have to get a lot of information from a lot of people to see how it impacts you, a contract of that magnitude. So anyways, I can't answer any more questions other than we did the best we could, and we are sorry to see him go. We wish him the best. And we'll have to obviously do right with the picks that we did acquire. And the players on this roster got to step up.
In the locker room, though, in terms of how they responded when you addressed them and told them, this is why we did what we did?
Well, I'm not going to ever speak for our players. You're going to have to ask them, for yourself. I'll just let it go at that. I think there's obviously some surprise, some shock. But deep down, I think some people realized it was a tough, long, drawn-out negotiation, and at the end, something had to happen.
You said the Bears went above what your offer was, way above perhaps. Was it a case of you wouldn't go to that number or you couldn't go to that number?
I'm not going to get into the negotiation. Reggie and Tom Delaney and the people that were negotiating were involved in that. I know there's maybe some feeling that I was involved on a day-to-day negotiation. I had nothing to do with it. So we were at a standoff, and something had to happen, and here we are.
Point that when you've got a quarterback making as much as you do, you can't bring in another contract that's comparable. It just doesn't.
Well, I don't know how many teams have done that. I don't know how many teams done it. Aaron Donald got signed. They don't have a quarterback that has been redone yet. I think the Bears made this trade. Trubisky's still on his rookie deal. It's tough when you have two players that are the highest paid, arguably, or close to the highest paid at their positions. So the economic part of it certainly weighs in. We've got free agents on our team that are going to be next year. We've got to find a way to bring them back. So you got to field a 53-man roster, and there are some implications of having two players making that much money. That's no mystery to anybody.
AJ McCarron, and how's he going to fit your offense?
Thanks for changing the subject. It'll be, he had been in Cincinnati with Paul Gunther, our defensive coordinator. I had been impressed with him when he was put into some tough spots in a playoff drive on a very good football team. And he went in there and did some really good things. Got signed by Buffalo. I think he got a big signing bonus. Things didn't work out. He's young. He's got some playing experience in big games. We have a lot of intelligence on him. Derek Ansley was at Alabama. I had him on my little episode. I got to know AJ, and Paul Gunther was with him on a daily basis. So we feel like we got better at the quarterback position, and we got to prove that too.
Reggie was truly on board with trading him, or do you feel maybe you had?
They're trying to divide us. People are trying to divide us, and I wanted him gone. He wanted him here. We made a decision as an organization. Mark Davis, Tom Delaney, we all got the information, and we made a decision together. And I'll just say what he said. I read what he said yesterday. It's a decision that we all came to.
The last formal offer or exchange of offers might have been in February. Was there a mystery in the situation, though? If this was not going to be a deal you could make, why not make that decision in February, March, and trade him in April?
Why would we do that? I don't understand why we would do that.
It would have been drafted in April. You
don't know if you can get those picks. We're trying to negotiate a contract to keep the player here. We would like to have the player stay here. He was under contract. We did not expect this to last as long as it did, but we're going to be second guessed until the cows come home on this. I understand that, but bottom line is we did do our due diligence. There was a standoff, and he got a great contract from the Bears. A great contract.
When that came in, did that sort of?
Well, it pretty much set the stage of what it was going to be, and $90 million guaranteed is an astronomical number. It's phenomenal, I think, for the players. Great for him, obviously, but that was something we could not do.
You wouldn't have got a bounty of picks if you wait, until the next draft and trade him.
Well, it's hard to say you could ever get 2 1s. Getting 2 first-round picks from a team is a lot of resources, and there's no guarantee that you can get 2 1s in 6 months or 2 years. There's no guarantee whatsoever. But 2 first-round draft choices is a lot of compensation that we have to do something with.
Respect and appreciation for Raiders tradition. All the greats who have been part of this organization over the decades of its existence. On a personal level, is there a difficulty to trading somebody whose career trajectories to place him part of that pantheon?
Part of what?
Part of that pantheon.
Pantheon's a tough one on me right now. Yeah, that's tough trading them. I've said that. It's tough to trade them. But there's an economic part of this that is also tough. And I'm not going to get into that, but we have to field a 53-man roster. The Bears came in with a great offer for us. And the agent, Joel Siegel, did a great job. He stood his ground, and he ended up getting the #1 contract in football for a defensive player.
Did you have to feel like you had to include the second round pick in there? I know a lot of people wondered why.
I really
Yeah.
wasn't involved in all of that, so you have to ask Reggie, to be honest with you.
A week ago, you were hanging out at Ricky's and told those fans there that you can do what it takes to get Khalil Mack in here. Now that he's gone, what do you say to those fans?
Well, we're going to do everything we can to win. We're going to do everything we can to win and put together the best football team possible. We have a lot of holes, and we have to do what we can to fill them.
You're welcome. You have a quarterback who doesn't know your offense yet. That's your only backup quarterback. What's your comfort with that situation? Could one of the two quarterbacks who are in camp behind Derek return, or is that just going to be the situation week one?
Well, hopefully Derek stays healthy. That's number one. But we have to fast track AJ. He's in here now working with Brian Callahan, and he'll be a consistent visitor here at this facility for the next few weeks. He's got a lot of catching up to do, and we'll try to fast track him the best way we can. There is a possibility that we'll bring another arm in here, so we'll see.
Win now situation.
What?
Win this year.
That's the plan. We're going to try to do everything we can to win. We also have to build this football team, and we've had one winning season in 14 years, and we have to do it the right way. And we have to make some tough decisions, as we have since the beginning of free agency. And this is tough to swallow. And we wish Khalil the best, obviously. And we need some of our players to step up.
Martavis, you saw so much in him from a size speed combination, something that this roster really didn't have. The third round pick reflects the value that is in your roster. Now that he's no longer part of the picture, what kind of dent does that leave on this thing? And can you replace that at this stage of the offseason?
Well, we expected more, from him. He did not make the team because Keon Hatcher came on. Some other players outperformed him. And I think you covered that during training camp. He missed extended amounts of time. And you saw Hatcher the other night. He's done it on our practice field. He did it in the game. He can play multiple positions, and he can play on special teams. We try to keep the 5 or 6 best receivers, and that's what we did.
Was there a miscalculation there?
I don't think so. I think the guy's a superb talent. The guy's got great talent. We released our second-round draft choice last year, and the year before, and the year before that. Not everything's a perfect science, but we'll be criticized for that. But it was a risk, I think, well worth taking. Perhaps we get Martavis again next year, and we can get the best out of him.
And being suspended, playing to release him?
Not really. I think just the overall versatility. Who goes in for Cooper if Cooper has an ailment? Who goes in for Nelson? Who's the third? Who goes in for Seth? Who can help us on special teams? Keon outperformed them, and for that reason, we're keeping Keon Hatcher.
Win a roster spot on the last night.
Probably
Or you
did.
caught your eye before then.
I probably would have got thrown out of the airplane if we not kept Keon after that game, but he had kept our eye. He had a great offseason. He's under the radar. He's undrafted. Practice squad a year ago. Caught a lot of touchdown passes at Arkansas. But when you put him in a game, he converts third downs. He can make big plays. And we're happy to have him aboard. What's that?
Enough pass rush. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. There's other ways to get to the passer. There's other ways to get to the passer besides just the 4-man rush. And somebody's got to step up. It's Arden Key's time. Bruce Irvin has to step up. Perhaps that means more blitzing. We'll have to see.
Two more guys. Two more.
You have one of the older rosters. Do you like a veteran roster, or do you want to get younger as you move along?
Well, we get these draft choices. We're trying to hit on the draft. We're trying to draft and develop. Obviously, the last 3 draft classes, we haven't got a lot of production out of yet. I don't think there's anybody left from the 13 draft. But 15, 16, 17, not much production at all. And with that being said, you got to fill holes. And sometimes you got to fill those holes in free agency. And some of the guys that are free agents are a little bit older. So that's one of the reasons why I think we're a little bit older than some teams. But we do have some good veteran players, some good veteran leadership, and we're anxious to get started.
Waiver claim tackles made. What was appealing about them?
Well, Murray, had some good preseason film. He's got some range. I think he could be a swing tackle. Clemmings played at Washington, had some starting experience, a little more seasoned game experience, tough guy. Look, these are not lifetime contracts. These are opportunities for us to look at some other linemen to perhaps improve us in the 8th and 9th spot. We need better depth, more consistent depth, and that's what we're trying to find.
One injury, surgery, something that could have been avoided if he ran less this preseason.
What's that? Yeah, probably. That's my fault also on that. But we did want to feature Warren, and I think I don't know this for sure. I think he won the preseason rushing title. But what a story he has been. He came from obviously nowhere, the rookie mini camp, to potentially earning a roster spot. He'll be a guy that is going to be worth keeping an eye on next year.
Mario Edwards was another one of those second-round picks that's no longer on the roster. What was deficient in his play that led him off the roster?
Well, he has some opportunities, obviously, in that last preseason game and in the 3 other games to emerge. P.J. Hall, Maurice Hurst came in and really took over at the inside pass rushing position. We tried him as a 6 technique. We felt like we were better off letting him find another opportunity and us going with the guys that outperformed him.
Well, there you go, folks. That is the John Gruden press conference today, and no commentary on why AJ Manuel was let go. Right? I mean, it just sort of was happened, and the press didn't ask. Just was let go. Dub says our team seems totally depleted. It does feel that way. Marco almost says, "I'm sad. Move on already." We didn't have the money. Correct, we didn't. I'm reading what he's writing. We didn't have the money. It's all about. I'm going to do this like this. All right, rather than you watch. I'm going to do it like this. Okay, this is easier. Okay, we didn't have the money, and the QB and championship days of loyalty. The players is gone. The Patriots way will spread. Hey, John Marks, how you doing? Black Lion says our season is over before it started. John Davis says, John, I apologize for getting so upset. You're my brother, man. It does seem like we're all trying to rebuild, not win now. I agree with you. One love, John Marks. Sit-chun says, you think if Bears have lose record that Raiders would trade away a top 5 pick instead of a top draft, top 5 talent? One love and Backer and Blackman. Hey, Patrick, still your shares. I'll get there. Don't know why that went. That tends to happen. Okay. Hey, John, and Billy Jones says the season was over before Mack is right here. The season was over before. This is coming out backward. You notice that? It says the season was over before. I'm not going to. You know what? I just realized you have to read backward, don't you? That's really weird. It's boy, oh boy. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway. Oh boy. Okay, I'll do it anyway. It was he says it's not the NFL that doesn't love the fans. It's the owners of the teams that don't care. And that's AP saying that, AFs rather. And Dub says, I swear it seems like we have a junior varsity team now. Romero says, we don't. I agree. Total different. It does feel different. I mean, we went from feeling like an 11-5 team, to now it feels like, I have to say, it feels like a 5-7. It feels like a team that is disjointed. The Raiders have gotten rid of a lot of players at the last minute. When I say, let me clarify. The Raiders have gotten rid of players that have contributed for them at high levels at the last minute, as opposed to keeping those players, like specifically Mack and Manuel, and then bringing in the case of quarterback, that's a huge risk to bring in AJ McCarron and says, we hope Derek Carr stays healthy. Given his track record, given his track record, given the rate at which quarterbacks are injured. I wonder if anyone's done a stat on the rate of quarterback injuries in the NFL over time series. Time series. If you ever wonder if you've heard the term time series and wonder what time series means. It simply means from point to point to point over a period of time. For example, it could be a period of days. It could be a period of months. It could be a period of seconds. It's a time series. So I'm wondering over a period of time series being seasons, if anyone has figured that out. It's probably worth looking at. Disco Hank says he sounds as if he was taking over in 2012. It seems his roster moves are being based in panic mode. And I've gotten, Derek, Disco Hank, you've stated what I believe in the back of my mind has been the case for some time. It's like John from the start. I remember when I saw him at the combine, he said, "I need ideas, man." And then I saw him again at the NFL annual meeting. I always got the underlying impression that he was in a hurry to establish a direction and an approach, but he was also very uncertain and insecure, Coach Gruden, about how he should do it. And if I'm picking that up and then you are reflecting that, how is it being translated to the players? Particularly after this weekend, right? So yeah, I think your comment is spot on, and I couldn't have said it myself, and it reflected exactly what I was thinking. Welcome to Zenny62, by the way. If you haven't subscribed before, please do. And I'm blessed and pleased as punch. Pleased as punch to have you here, and I'm glad you're here. Muhammad says, I do agree with Gruden, draft matters, but how can you develop if you trade your veterans? Right. Steve Macy says, hey, Steve, how you doing? Says, go Rams. How long you been a Rams fan? And I guess reflecting on something that I missed. And Billy Jones says, agree with that score. Oakland will have biggest defeat week 1. Jared Goff will look like Joe Montana. And you know what? I'm starting to think that's the case. The only solace is that the Rams are coming to Oakland. But will the crowd be that enthusiastic? That's really my concern. I mean, you've taken away one of the most popular players. It's like you've taken your own hand and heart out of your own body. That's what it feels like, okay? And for the Raiders to not budget for their heart is something that is absolutely flabbergasting to talk about. And that's hence the title. Some of you are saying, oh, he's race baiting and all this. I'm not. I am pointedly asking a question about something that looks like a pattern. Does that mean I want it to be so? Of course not. Does that mean that I dislike John Gruden, who I regard as a kind of a brother in thinking? Of course not. Does that mean I dislike Reggie McKenzie, who I think is an outstanding general manager? Of course not. Does that mean I dislike the Raider organization? Absolutely not. But this is a time for frank talk, okay? This is a time to really say, what the heck are you doing? As Amy Trask, former Raiders CEO, put out on Twitter, hey, Al Davis said, pay him, he sacks the quarterback. I'm paraphrasing, all right? And Amy, God love her, is hanging out on the beach and watching all this from afar and feeling sad for a lot of people, okay? Amy's my friend. So and will be for quite some time. I love Amy. I think she's a fantastic person. So who got a bum rush? Yes, I said that. So at some point, you have to concern yourself with these actions, and we might as well concern ourselves with them at the root core of what they look like now. And what it looks like is, hey, look, when it came to paying Mack top dollar and retaining players who happen to be black, they were like, oh, well, we don't value, but others do. Okay? The Raiders need to stop ththemselves and say, hey, look, do we have that kind of issue in the back of our mind unintentionally? Is there something that we're doing? John Gruden himself said, did you hear him? He said, hey, look, 90 million guaranteed is a lot of money. This coming from a man who has a $100 million guaranteed contract. Okay? Just think about that. Just think about that, all right? So something else. So AF says Elway offered him a job. He declined. And then he went back to the Broncos and asked for a job. Elway said, no, you had your chance. Bye. Talking about, see here. I don't know who you're talking about, AF. Interesting. Chuck Ray says, this is what happens when you have a love affair with a coach that won a Super Bowl with a team built by someone else. And I think a love affair with a coach that won a Super Bowl with a team built by someone else, but also a long, long time ago. You're right, Chuck Ray. I think that you said it quite correctly and succinctly. The Barber says, Cap can't read defenses. Of course he can. Muhammad says, bring Cap back. Cap will not only move attention away from Mack, but will bring positivity. But I'm wondering with this lawsuit, can they do that? John Davis says, favorites are Bo Jackson, Howie Long, and Tim Brown. LA Raiders. So, oh boy. Jared Flowers says he's a Raider fan until he dies. Being a fan does not mean that you cannot be critical. Remember that. You can be a fan, but being a fan does not mean you can't be critical. You can be long-suffering. All right? You can be long-suffering. Welcome to Zenny62 if you're just joining us. AF says, Steve, you can hope all you want. Hope is in one hand, poop in the other. And let's see which one fills up faster. That's hilarious. So Kevin KD said real talk, or somebody said real talk. What did Kevin KD say? AF said there's a lot of comments on here. Kevin the Barber, what makes you mad about saying, as I actually had high hopes for the Raiders when he first took over as owner, but he has been a huge traitor. And Muhammad says, I don't buy the roster issue. A lot of players leaving next year were older guys. And they should have just simply look, this all started, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, because the Raiders don't have a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of money going into this situation. Las Vegas is in the spending there has given them less. And then Coach Gruden's $100 million guaranteed contract has even given them less. So they had already taken care of Derek Carr. And I really believe that the whole Gruden contract issue upended things. It really upended things. You know, everyone believes that the salary cap, and Gruden refers to the salary cap. But look, a team pays players like Sebastian Janikowski by contract, not on a salary cap. So you've got a bigger sphere of money payments that go to players than just that which are represented in the salary cap. There's this idea that it's just the salary cap and nothing else. No, not at all. My point, and again, it shows just how the media is trying to be so nice and got to maintain access and not ask, a basic question that's just sort of sticking out there. But why is it that you didn't do a sponsorship deal for Khalil Mack? Simple question, okay? Simple question. And why is it, if Reggie McKenzie is watching this, he's probably saying, Zenny, I don't have control over that. Reggie, I get it. But my point is, it's time to ask questions about how the organization is ran so that when you have situations like this in the future, you at least have some flexibility, okay? You can at least have a little skunk works of people, sponsorship salespeople who structure deals, owner who can structure deals with them so that you have a structured deal that can work. Look, I know just because you structure a deal doesn't mean somebody's going to accept it. but at least make the pitch. And again, I say this, the Raiders have not tried with the tech community like the Raiders should. There are a lot of opportunities out there. There are a lot of eyeballs that the tech community is looking to take advantage of with respect to B2C products. That has not been mined appropriately or significantly at all, okay? So, and I know that for a fact. I met some of this. I met a lot of sponsorship people. And over the years, I've met I think 80% of them. Yeah, over the course of my lifetime. So, hey, that goes back to, considering my association with the Raiders where that happened, 1993. So, yeah. All right. So remember, now Mr. Davis, Mark Davis, but Al's idea was, hey, look, winning will take care of everything. So we don't need all this, marketing and all this stuff. That was his idea. Now, Black Lion, Black Lion says, this is on the owner running the most broke team in the NFL. That is one of the most popular there is. No excuse for not making money from the Raider name. No, not at all. But I remind you, though, the 49ers lead in merchandise sales over the Raiders in the Bay Area. That's right. The Raiders should be one of the top 3 to 5 brands in terms of sales in the NFL, but they're not. They're not, okay? The Raiders are not. And so let me go here to down. Got trying to get comments I may have missed. And I think I've got everybody to a point. No, I do not. All right. John Mark says sponsorship service were never among the points for the Oakland Raiders. Cowboy Wrestler. Hey, Cowboy Wrestler, how you doing? He says, like his father, Mark has this idea of running a football team from a business aspect. Cowboy Wrestler says that Mark Davis has no idea of running a football team from a business aspect. Excuse me. Billy Jones says 49ers have a much better management than Oakland. I give them that. The 49ers do a fantastic job. The Warriors do an awesome job. Billy Jones says, and here, that's the other thing. The San Francisco Bay Area, and I have to say this, is rich in sport management talent. We have arguably the best sport management school in the country in the University of San Francisco. I and Dan Rasher created the Oakland, well, I really created it, and Dan kind of signed off on it as client, but created the Oakland Baseball Sim World. And I have friends like, Stephanie Miller, who has started her own athlete sponsorship team firm and was director of communications for Super Bowl 50. You have the legendary Pat Gallagher, who was head of Giants Enterprises. You have Andy Dolich, who worked for both the A's and then the Warriors, and I believe the San Jose Sharks, if I'm not mistaken. You've got a wealth of very talented individuals on the business side of sports right in the Bay Area. And for the Raiders to not call on them in some kind of creative way is criminal. It is just criminal, okay? There are few places in the world with richer sport management talent and knowledge than the Bay Area. Atlanta is competitive, but I would say Atlanta's about even, but not over, except that Atlanta has the advantage of having more traditional companies that are used to spending money for sports sponsorship, right? But in terms of overall dollars to access the Bay Area, awesome, okay? Awesome. In terms of sport management knowledge and business acumen, Bay Area, awesome. Incredible. The Raiders are right in the Bay Area, and you can't do deals that get you money to retain your players? That's why I put this out there like this. I'm saying they can't be that behind. They can't be that, there's got to be something else. maybe it's, because it looks like that. Unbelievable. Dre Perkins, how you doing? Dre says 49ers organization was great when Eddie D was there. And they're just, well, he says that, okay. These comments are going fast because there's now a lot of people here. Welcome to Zenny62. I'm glad you're here. And Cowboy Rusher says in play in Chicago, and I apologize because they're going by at such a rapid clip. Get each and every one of these comments. That's the thing. But I'm going to have some fun. I want to see. It's 9:41. It's Labor Day. I don't expect to do this, but I'm going to see if I can catch a certain person here and see if they want to chime in and make a quick comment if they're available. This is they may not be.
Hi, reach Chris Dobbins. Please leave
They're
your
not.
name, number, and a brief message, and I'll get right back to you. Thanks.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, Chris Dobbins. This is Zenny calling you while I'm doing my live show, and I thought I'd get your comments on the Raiders situation real quick. But hey, you didn't know I was going to call? I'll talk to you later, buddy. All right, see ya. Just having a little fun here. So why not? It's Labor Day. There's a lot of you. And let's see. I tried to get I tried to bring on Ray Chester. The other, oh, you know what? I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. Hold on a second. Got an idea here. Calling a friend of mine. Joe.
Yes, sir.
Just called to say happy birthday.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
You got it. Hey, I got you on live. There's now 85 people. Folks, my friend Joe Tanyos is running for Oakland City Council District 4. He is an 18-year veteran worker of the city of Oakland. But Joe, I just want to, we're talking about the Raiders and Khalil Mack is gone and AJ Manuel was traded. And I mean, can you talk us down off the cliff? Because we're all depressed. This is your birthday, man. I'm leaning on you because you're a positive energy guy. You got any positive energy for us?
You got me. I just finished my dinner and I'm with my kids.
Oh.
But I am really sorry, Vinny. If you want, I call you tomorrow. Like better energy. I promise I get you all the news that you want.
Oh, sorry, folks. You heard it, folks. All right. So anyway, I'm hitting the man on his birthday. happy birthday.
Trust me, the sport's gonna be on my priority. We need good negotiators.
Well,
the Raiders, I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
Raiders screw Oakland big time. We don't have good negotiators from the city. We lost the Warriors. I'm praying to God we don't lose the A's. And neither any of the city council or the mayor doing enough to like expedite the A's approval on what do you call it, Brooklyn Field, yeah.
Yeah, Howard Terminal.
It's just very Howard Terminal.
Yeah.
Howard Street, pardon me. It's very sad. Any city like Oakland, metropolitan, the top 10 city in the state of California, have its own international airport. It's the 5th busiest seaport on the western hemisphere of the United States, and we can't keep one team in Oakland and find arena for them. It's a shame on them.
Hey, I got some good news. I got some good news with the A's though. The streamlining bill passed the Senate. The environmental streamlining bill passed the Senate on Saturday.
Yes. And why it took so long?
That's a.
Why would it take so long? Why? Because we had a poor negotiation, poor communication. We used to have councilmen that I don't want to name that didn't get along with the mayor. The mayor now removed her off the CPA board, and we don't have any representation from the city of Oakland now. We don't. Claudia Cappy used to attend. She's no longer with the city. And it's very sad. I wish I could be part. I would be very good negotiator. But I never brought it to the mayor. I never applied for that job. A voluntary job, you know that, the commission on injure. But the problem is we have a poor leadership, poor negotiation. We're losing one team after another. Now the A's, until they build, until they drill, until they find what's underneath, what's unforeseen, you might be facing unforeseen conditions where they're going to build.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing fully clear, and then it's going to take, I don't know what's the time duration. Could be 3 years, could be 5 years. I mean, look at the Warriors. They have the money. They have a great team. They have great management. They started the arena a year and a half ago. They're almost done. I mean, they're planning on opening it by the end of 2019.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing progress. And we in the city of Oakland, it's a very, very corrupt local government, layers of bureaucracy. They don't get along. Nothing, no progress, no process being done. It's a shame that the way they operate. And this is why, a guy like me is jumping in.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I know I could make a big difference, and I will. And I will fight to the last end. It's just to get things done for the people who deserve it.
Joe.
Taxpayers deserve better service than what we're getting. And the funniest part, they go and they endorse people. Nobody heard of them in their own district. They never done squat to serve the city. And they all jump to endorse some individuals, candidates, and they throw parties and they say, oh, he is the city in good hand and this so and so. Wow, if the city in good hands and the new candidates that nobody heard of, so what's the mayor and the vice mayor doing?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Man. It's a shame. Anyway, where are you?
I'm on live stream as Zenny62 on YouTube, and we're all watching. And the title of my show is that the Raiders, AJ Manuel, and they traded Khalil Mack. AJ Manuel released. I'm asking, do the Raiders have an issue with paying black players top dollar? Because the Chicago Bears made Khalil Mack record-setting contract as
black player or white player or female player or LGBT player, they should all be equal. They should pay them all top dollars.
Mm-hmm.
They should treat everybody the same. It's in the workforce as well. Women should be treated equal to men.
Mm-hmm.
As the father of 2 daughters, I must pay attention to this more and more. And we should eliminate discrimination. We should work on it to stop discriminating against people and treat people with respect and dignity and pay them what they deserve, regardless of their race and ethnicity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it was a case of the Raiders not having money, but on the other hand, to me, it seemed like it was a case of the Raiders not having the want to find the money for Khalil Mack, because they had no problem saying to John Gruden, get this, Joe. The Raiders said to John Gruden, hey, here's a $100 million guaranteed contract as coach. And he hasn't coached in, a decade, right? But then today, Gruden at his press conference says that $90 million guaranteed to Khalil Mack was, a steep climb. I'm paraphrasing. In other words, something that here's a man who has a $100 million guaranteed contract saying that $90 million guaranteed to his top defensive end is something that shouldn't be done. That's what he said. So, I mean, that's what got me to think, hey, what the Raiders have some sort of issue here that isn't being talked about? Because if you want somebody, you'll find the money to retain them. You know that.
I'll be honest with you, the Raiders, since their move to Las Vegas, since their decision, I have no respect for them. I used to love them. They were my number one, team after 49ers, and since I started to like them, I'm Oakland. I'm all about Oakland now. They move into Las Vegas. I have no respect for the owner. I have no respect for him. I don't want to blame the players. I mean, they have nothing to do with it. But, let them go to Vegas. Let them try. They went before to LA. They came back. And now let them go to Vegas. They're going to be burned out. They will be leaving one at a time because they run them like any other show in Las Vegas.
Wow.
It's bad that we have a poor leadership quality in the city of Oakland, that a good team that's easy to be bought to Vegas, and we could not hold on to. That shows you the poor negotiation, the lack of experience on our city officials. They are unfit to run city government. They're unfit to negotiate. They can't negotiate union contract. They fail to negotiate union contract. How can they negotiate any time half the sports league? And they brag about their achievement. There is no achievement. There is big failure. And if you don't admit your failure, you won't be successful and won't be truthful to yourself. And I'm speaking it for the record. I care less who hears it or not.
Hey, Joe Daniels.
Many more, man. It's many more. It's just sicking me to see them on social media and on other people's Facebook and on Twitter bragging about their achievement. What achievement? What achievement? The city lost 36 dead people in the Gold Strip, and nothing changed. Nothing changed to better. City full of homeless in every corner, in every downtown, in every district. The city has potholes throughout the city. Please. The city has illegal dumping on almost every street in Oakland. It's sad, Vinny. You live in a country, in the greatest country in the world, United States of America, that every person wants to come here. And you come to 2018 to Oakland, you see roadways that crumbled, you see illegal dumping all over the places, that you see homeless all over the city. And then they're going, the local council members and the mayors, and bragging about their achievement. What achievement? Name one for me. They're not doing their job. Your job is to focus internally on the people that elected you. And the people that elect you, they deserve better treatment than that. They deserve better service than that. The basics, go back to the basics. The basic means, if you have a homeless and somebody help them out to get them off the street, to get them the help, the basic help that they need, and then work the priority. The priority is fix the streets, deal with the illegal dumping, the safety. Nobody. My family's car being broken into 3 times in 1 month.
3 times? Wait, say that again?
3 times.
3 times in 1 month?
Family's car being broken into 3 times in 1 month. We give up. We don't report to the police. What's the point? It's a waste of time. It's on Monterey Boulevard between 35th Avenue and between Atlas and on Jordan, and my neighbor's car and my other neighbor's car. It's a Redwood Heights. Look, if we're on live stream, it's okay with me. I don't care if anybody hears. The point is, what I'm trying to say to you, it's not just my car. It's not just my family's car. It's every neighbor in the neighborhood has the same problem.
It had to happen to Ray Leon.
In a country where you can't go with your family, have dinner at any restaurant, and come back and not sure if your car broken into. And you telling me why I'm running for office? That's why I'm running for office. I could make changes. I could make difference. I could make positive influence on the society that I love and I respect. And you know what, Vinny? I don't want to badmouth the police department. I really think there's outstanding police officers. But those police officers need to have the right tools, the right support to do the job. But when I hear the mayor and the city council members and all these bragging about their achievement, what achievement? What? List them for me. List them to the public. Go on TV and tell the public I achieved this and that and this. What is it? As long as I see homeless, as long as I see potholes, as long as I see illegal dumping, as long as I see fire and lose 36 people in the city, and at the end we're going to be paying for the losses for each and every one of them, then I got a problem. And that problem must be dealt with. So I don't know, Zini. I don't know who's operating, who's running the show in the city hall.
That tells it like it is, Joe, and it's a somber resuscitation of Oakland's problems. And I'm sorry to hear about the break-in. You know, Ray Leon, who works for Larry Reed, had his car broken into 2 Friday nights ago. Put the pictures on social media.
I have a friend. I'll add to this. I don't need to interrupt you. I have a friend, young professional real estate, and I could give you offline. I could give you a name and number to call her, and she could give you.
Sure.
She purchased Mercedes, brand new Mercedes. The woman trying to make living because she's in the real estate business. She went to have dinner with her friend who's visiting from LA. She parked in Jack London Square on 2nd Street, or right near Jack London Square, near the Embarcadero. She came back from dinner. Her 2 windows smashed, totally smashed. Brand new Mercedes, and photos. I have photos to send to you. I'll send it to you right now. And get this, Zinni. The Mercedes is 6 months old. They cannot find 2 windows for her, and her insurance does not cover rental car. And in order for her to get these windshields, she has to wait 2 weeks. I mean, is this fair?
No, it's
in
not
what
fair.
Country? I never seen this in Lebanon, in the war zone countries. You know, that's war. We understand it's war. In America, in 2018, in the month of August, you have this enter all these cameras on Jack London Square, and then the police doesn't bother civil rights reports. And you know, this is something. You know, a guy like me, I just turned 51. I have 2 children. I work very hard, 2 jobs to support the family, and then to have this kind of service when I tax, and I'm getting new measures like AK and deep.
Joe, hello.
I mean, they go up to the cities. You understand the point I'm trying to make, Zinni. I don't mind to pay extra service, but I am not a penny addition to what I'm paying now, as long as the service is as shitty as it is now.
Right.
It's not fair. And then I will be doing this service to the citizen of Oakland if I will ask them to approve any bond or any measure that the money does not be spent on where was intended to, like the way they're doing in the city now. It's so unfair. They collect money for one thing, then they spend it on another thing.
Hey, Joe, I'm going to get back to my show, but hey, man, happy birthday. And folks, Joe Tanyos is running for Oakland City Council District 4. You heard him I haven't heard him before. He's come out swinging. Joe, you came out swinging.
Zinni, I love Oakland. I love the city of Oakland. I love the people of Oakland, Zinni. My heart is belongs to Oakland. You know, I work very hard. I could live in Walnut Creek, in Danville, and Alamo, and Saramon, anywhere like everybody else. But I chose Oakland because I love Oakland. I want to live here. I want to die here. I want to serve the people of Oakland. I want to raise my children here. And I want to work my heart out to help the people of Oakland to make things better. And as I said before, zero discrimination does not exist in my book. I believe in equal salary, equal rights for everyone. And like what I said to you earlier, the players, the women in offices, the professionals, that we all should be treated equally. You know, if we don't do right justice for everyone, we will always have discrimination. And I'm trying to work hard to eliminate that. We want to respect for one another, to have better life, better, healthier environment for our children and our children's children.
Well said, Joe. Hey, I'm going to get back to my show, but I will talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you, Zinni, for your call. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for taking the time, man. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
I hope I could serve the resident from the bottom of my heart.
Hey, by the way, folks, Joseph Tanyos, TANIOS, josephtanyos.com, right, Joe?
Yes, Joe, www.joetanyos.com.
Oh, excuse me, joetanyos.com. That's his website. Check him out. He's running for Oakland City Council District 4. All right.
Thank you, Zinni. I appreciate you very much.
You got it, man. I'll see you. Okay.
Thank you, brother.
I'll see you. So, wow, how about that one, folks? I just calling random people that I know, and Joe Tanios is running for Oakland City Council District 4. He's a friend of mine, and he let loose. He just let loose. And Black Lion says, thanks, caller. And yeah, that's, I have to say, you guys got a scoop. I mean, guy running for Oakland City Council just lays into the city, calls it corrupt, blasts Mark Davis, the owner, says he doesn't trust the owner. Just Joe went off. I mean, today is Joe's birthday. All right. So he just turned 51 and he's just, well, you heard it. Wow. Something else, folks. Hey, too bad Barry Lee's not around on Twitter. So at any rate, it is a point now where you guys are having your own interesting conversation here. Black Lion says, you pay the man, period, just like they did Carr. Yeah. And somebody else said something that they were pro-black. It was all about business. And I want to address that. It's not a matter of being pro-black or anti-black. That's not the point. My point is a pattern seems to be at hand where the Raiders are not giving up top dollar to athletes who happen to be black. Okay, so that's pattern is there. I am challenging anyone to show me an example recent where that's not the case. I haven't seen it. Okay, and Gruden gets $100 million guaranteed contract. Derek Carr gets $65 million guaranteed. They take their time with him, but when it comes to Khalil Mack, it's we're far apart, and he wanted this and we wanted that, and the Bears, and what was your thinking as an organization that you didn't want to open the bank for Khalil Mack? What was your thinking as an organization, Raiders, that you didn't want to retain AJ Manuel? What was your thinking as an organization that you would get a guy in Martavis Bryant that you knew was iffy, rather than the certainty of a guy in the draft like Courtland Sutton? And then knowing that he has a different way of thinking, and this is what I didn't like about the way Coach Gruden handled it. He basically gets on, Coach Gruden does, the mic. It implies that Martavis Bryant is not intelligent enough to pick up the offense. In other words, he doesn't know how to think in abstract terms, i.e., you're a flanker, but hey, you have to learn a fullback position. You have to be able to learn this position if we need you to replace somebody else. Well, in all the years he was with the Steelers, he didn't have that problem, okay? But to hang the man out to dry intellectually like that, it started me to think about the question that I'm asking you now. Because particularly as a guy who is unfortunately at the other opposite end of that issue, where people over my history, like a fellow at the city of Oakland when I was an intern said, man, you got three problems. You're young, gifted, and black. Okay. And that has always been a problem in the United States, because you have people who don't want anyone after. That's changing a lot, by the way. And it's to the point now where among the mainstream, it's not heard of. And when I say mainstream, I mean like the coal miner in West Virginia. Yeah, I did say that. The United States has changed a great deal. But my point is that you have some people around who, in their mindset, think in the old school way, is like, oh, you can't possibly be that smart. Well, you can. But then also, they would rapidly criticize someone who is black and imply that that person isn't a flexible thinker or an abstract thinker. And that's what John did. Okay. John was better off saying nothing about Martavis Bryant. But when he said that, I was very disappointed in Coach Gruden. I was very disappointed. because my thinking was, well, wait a minute, Coach, how are you instructing Bryant on how you want your offense ran? All right, and so he said, Muhammad says, didn't Bryant beat his guy on the first play of preseason? Yeah, he did, absolutely. But then Gruden makes this comment prior to that, Muhammad, about Bryant. And I thought, why say that? If a person has a problem picking up your offense, generally it means that you're not teaching them in the right way. You should always question how you're explaining something to someone. I'll give you an example. Going back to my Oakland baseball sim world. And the Oakland baseball sim world had a provision. It's basically designed so that you understand something called baseball or sports business dynamics. For example, what happens when you spend a lot of money on a star player like Khalil Mack and you don't win? And your lack of winning produces less than stellar merchandise sales, and you find that you have to make up for a net operating income that's a deficit the next year. So what do? Raise ticket prices, lower? What are the dynamics of that? It was a true dynamic simulation of a sports business. Now, the problem was that people could lose in it astronomically high sums of money, and I thought, that doesn't feel right. So I engineered in contraction. If you lost $120 million in the simulation, you saw the A's being contracted. Or it wasn't the A's, but we actually called it the Oakland baseball sim world. We didn't use the name A's. That was by agreement with the Athletics and Major League Baseball. But you would be contracted, okay? And it would take you to a page where you would learn about why that happened. And I designed that in because I realized that it was a student whose name I'm not going to use, but she called me desperate because she wasn't doing well. I looked at what she was doing. I thought, gosh, she's losing all this money. And I was trying to explain to her why that was a bad thing and what could happen in real life. And I said, you could get contracted. And I thought, wait a minute, why didn't I just program that in? So I did. Okay. But think about what I'm telling you. I was trying to figure out a way to make sure that she understood what the game was teaching her. And when I realized the game wasn't going far enough to do that, I changed the game. Similarly, if Gruden realizes that Martavis Bryant's not absorbing how the offense should be understood the way he wants it to, the first thing Gruden should ask is, how am I teaching it to him? Okay? Because you're supposed to be a teacher first as a coach. That's the idea. And if you're not doing that, it means you're not coaching properly. Okay? So Gruden should not have made a statement about Martavis Bryant that implied that Martavis Bryant was not capable of abstract thinking. But that's precisely what John Gruden did, and it was wrong. So all right. So Cabrera says, face it, Raiders, we're in for a long season, and it's because Mark Davis decided to have a guy who hasn't coached the game in 10 years. A lot has changed in the NFL in 10 years. And Black Lion says, right on the money, CW. And Billy Jones says, Cooper won't be a Raider much longer. I agree with you. Muhammad says, Bryant might get suspended, but at least once it's known he's suspended. Right. Raider Gann says, Crabtree, King, Patterson, Mack. The Gruden thing is working out great. Right. Think about it. Crabtree, black. King, black. Patterson, black. Mack, black. You forgot Manuel, black. All right. I mean, it's. And in the case of releasing Ryan Switzer, they made sure that Switzer was set up. Remember that? It was like, oh, he's been a great player for us. We're going to make sure that he can go someplace that he can start. So they painted white guy as this positive experience. Like, we're going to make sure that he went someplace that he could start, which means we're looking out for you. There may not be a spot on our roster, but we've set you up so that you can succeed someplace else. They didn't address that with Khalil Mack. They didn't say, hey, look, we can't afford you, but we're very happy to set you up someplace where you can make a ton of money. It wasn't like they didn't express any real happiness for Khalil Mack at all. It was more like they were disappointed that he did not, if you will, kiss the ring, right? And decide he's going to take less money to be a Raider. I'm sorry, the Raiders have not built that championship pedigree to where someone will actually take less money to be with the organization. The Raiders are not at that place. And if John thinks that they're in that place, then he needs to change his thinking sooner rather than later and before it's too late. Detective says that's the NFL, dude. It's like 95% of the players are black, 90% of the players are black. Actually, it's not 90%. JJ Seal says it has nothing to do with race. Our salary cap is horrible. But JJ, I'm glad you're joining us, by the way, and I'm glad you made that point. It does because, the salary cap, it's more than the salary cap. Sebastian Janikowski was on a contract having nothing to do with salary cap. You can sign players off contract, not on the salary cap, okay? Not everything is the salary cap. We had that discussion, I guess, before you walked in. So just want to say that to you. And also, look, you should never fear to call out a situation that has a race pattern, okay? Ever. You should never fear to do that. Or a sex pattern, all right? It doesn't make, all right, it's not a racist thing to do. It's race conscious. And how else to basically deal with head-on a problem rather than pointing out that, hey, this thing seems to exist. This problem seems to exist. And all I'm saying is this problem seems to exist, okay? I'm asking a question. I know it's not popular, but I'm asking a question, okay? What happened, like, for example, what happened with AJ Manuel, right? And this is not the first time this issue has been raised either, okay? So Eddie Willie says almost 80% of the roster in the NFL is comprised of black players. No, it's not 80%. John Davis says, I like the fact that that we kept most of our running backs since and it's more talent pattern to me. That's funny. Andre says Reggie can't stop Mark from being cheap anymore. Then he can make him buy a new minivan. Either Mark's just cheap or Gruden wants to rebuild again and blame Reggie. And I think at the end of the day, it's about money, but also encapsulated within that, it's the work you do to find the money to pay the player. I'm saying that again and again and again. Malhai says, I believe in Gruden, and he will prove that he can lead us to the postseason multiple years. And Malhai Raider, I certainly hope you're correct, and I will continue sending plays to John. I'm not stopping. But again, I said this at the onset of this program. This is not an easy discussion. This is a family conversation that needs to be had, and that's precisely what I am doing. I am being the bull in the china shop that puts out the question and shares the ideas that either people don't want to have shared or want to ask it, but they're afraid to. I'm being that person, okay? I'm asking. I am, if you like, I am being that guy, okay? Fine. C Love says, you say the Raiders didn't have the money, but they should have given Mack what they wanted. No, I said, Lava, you misunderstand. And let me give, again, the example of Jerry Jones because I love what he did. Faced with the scenario of how to pay Deion Sanders, how to acquire Deion Sanders, Jones went out and established sponsorship deals with Pepsi and Nike for a total of $30 million. It was outside the NFL rules at the time. He went to court, but he got his candy. My point is, when you want something, when you want to pay for something, you figure out a way to get the money. Okay? Mark Davis figured out a way to get the money so that he felt he could offer John Gruden a $100 million guaranteed contract. All right? So you have the same organization have its head coach saying, gee, $90 million guaranteed is too steep for a defensive end who just happens to be regarded as the top defensive end in the NFL and a generationally popular defensive end. Talking about Khalil Mack, of course. So, and then, of course, what happened with AJ Manuel. All right. So it's not a matter of percentages. Oh, the percentage of the NFL. Blah, blah, blah. In fact, since you say that, I'm just because some people are batting down these percentages. Okay, and about the NFL is almost, it's not 80 or 90% black. The NFL is almost 70% black. Okay, and that was as of 2017. And so there's a website here. It's by the Undefeated, and it talks about the NFL's racial divide. All right, and it says teams don't build. I want you to see this. Okay, look at this. You ready? Look at this. Okay, look at this. The NFL's racial divide. Okay, here. All right. Teams don't consciously build rosters based on race. It just ends up that way. It's by Jason Reed and Jane McManus. Okay, so don't think that don't think that this is not a real problem. You just saw it. All right, you just saw it right there, folks. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down here, and this was says it really seems ludicrous coming from Christian McCaffrey, one of college football's most decorated players over the last 2 seasons. Yet there he was at the NFL Combine last month explaining he hasn't gotten his due. A lot of people don't give me credit, McCaffrey said, for my skill and talent. Granted, McCaffrey wouldn't be the first elite athlete to repeat that I don't get no respect mantra for self-motivation. And on that basis alone, his words could have been easily dismissed. But this is what gives McCaffrey comments of actual meaning. He's white and a star player at a position dominated by African Americans for decades. McCaffrey, ironically, has faced a much higher bar than his black colleagues just to prove he belongs. And I love this because, the argument that they're going to make is one that I made with respect to Tom Stanford running back that came out a few years ago, also white, who many people just dismissed as not being able to be a great halfback, Tommy Vardell. And yet he was a great halfback and a bruising runner. But he got the same kind of racist, if you like, treatment. Okay. People get slotted. Okay. So when you all say, I'm, wrong to bring up this race issue with some of you, I'm not the only one bringing it up because it's there. Anyway, it goes on to say that McCaffrey says in professional sports' most successful league, the NFL, featured white running backs are as in vogue as helmets without face masks. After his outstanding body of work in college at Stanford and impressive showing at the NFL Combine, McCaffrey is expected to become the first white tailback selected in the first round of the draft in more than 40 years, providing another example of the complex role race plays in determining who in lines up where. All right. So I'm going to stop right there. So for those of you who think, oh, Zinni's out to lunch and, he's just race baiting, I'm not. There are clear problems in the NFL with respect to race and where players go and who gets what money. So I am not, I'm not bringing up something that other people aren't talking about. It's just that some of you fear the conversation. Okay, so anyway, Eddie, it's almost Eddie. It's regardless of what you said, you were wrong. It's almost 80. It's not almost 80%. It's almost 70%. And I wasn't quoting you. I'm reading something. Okay, so pay attention. So Lockett says, who's at fault? Is it the black players that are about 70% better than the other? That opens up another conversation about where people, it's not even that. That's not even here. What I'm talking about players that are in it, not how they get there or the percentage. Talking about the percentage is anti-intellectual. What is intellectual is to talk about how the player in the NFL is treated and slotted once they get there. It's not a percentage issue. Okay. So JJ says, I agree Carr is one great quarterback, but we have Cooper coming up. Conley will be coming up in 2 years. And Kelber Russia says, hey, John Marks. And Joe Business says, do you have a confidence the Raiders can over time make up for losing Matt Zenny? Do I have confidence? No, because I'm concerned that the Raiders do not have enough money to acquire and keep top players or pay players, all right, what they're worth. You can't, as John Gruden is trying to do, install a Patriots model without Patriots championships. That model was built over time. And the Patriots were just fortunate enough to have a football approach that generated championships. When you generate championships, that brings sponsorships, that's eyeballs, that brings people who want to be part of, your brand. So then you can get away, and this works for all aspects of the organization. I do mean get away with lowballing and paying less than what the market would offer somebody because you have that cachet. That's not the Raiders. That's not the Raiders. So for the Raiders to think of themselves as that team was an immense mistake. And while the Raiders may say we don't believe we're that team, they certainly wound up presenting themselves as if by circumstance they look like they were thinking they were that team. They're not. When you're trying to build a brand, you have to pay top dollar. And the Raiders didn't do that because they don't have the money. And so the Raiders have to ask themselves the very simple question, is our revenue envelope large enough to achieve the kind of one-loss record we believe is possible? And right now, the answer is no. The gigantic X factor is schematic. What kind of plays and approach will they use? It's going to have to be really innovative to get over these problems. If it's not on offense, it's going to be a long year. Okay? The Raiders have 5 games. 5 games to really be effective, because after that 5 games, the book, as I call it, is developed. What's the book? It's the tendency of the Raiders to do, run this play or that versus on this situation or that. Once that's cemented, by the 6th, 7th, and 8th game, you'll have a clear idea. I call those the meat games. All right, those games, and whether or not the team loses them, and how they lose them, will dictate the rest of the season. If you like the Falcons, when Dan Quinn was first as coach, right, and had Shanahan, they ran the table 5 games, but a book was developed on them. And once people figured out that, hey, the Falcons don't adjust well, that was it. You go into halftime, figure out that, hey, on first down, they're not want to use play action with Devonta Freeman and, throw short. and you call appropriate defense to stop that and the formations they present, and that's it, because they're not going to change. They lack sight adjustments for their receivers. You know that, so you can clamp down and blitz. You're good to go. And that's another problem the Falcons have under Steve Sarkisian, that lack of, adjustment, a hot read adjustment. That's a huge problem in the Sarkisian offense, even more so than the Shanahan offense, which has been improved. It looked like Kyle really scouted himself going into San Francisco and made some nice changes. The 49ers this year are going to be fun to watch. So it is now 124. I'm going to stop at about 140. Geez Louise, there's so many of you here. It's just fantastic. Maybe I won't stop. John Davis says, again, John Davis, I look, I want to say one thing. I love you all, okay? And I don't mean to, I'm very passionate in my beliefs and my expression. I do not mean any personal harm. I just want that known. Mr. Ryder says, we're going to go 4-12. Chucky will be fired. Mile High Raider says, they will trade and get some extra picks other rounds to save money. Jay Steele says, I think we go 9-7. And I think that's about the case. I'm really afraid of this Rams game, though. The Rams game is going to be, to me, the Rams game is even bigger than it would have been even with Mack signed. If Khalil Mack were signed, oh my God. If Khalil Mack were signed and the Raiders went into this week intact, my goodness. It would have been a homecoming. Gruden back, Khalil Mack signed a huge contract, biggest in the league ever. It would have been a homecoming. AJ Manuel backing up Derek Carr, it would have been a homecoming. No homecoming. C-Left says, Gruden says he wouldn't take the $100 million if he doesn't build a winning program. Yeah, right. Billy Jones says, no, it's not. Kung Cloud says, I think the Raiders would do good this year. Muhammad says, Reggie did amazing cleanup cap. Look, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Reggie McKenzie's a top flight NFL executive. It doesn't mean I have to agree with everything that he does. Just saying, okay? Will Luckett says, Gruden and Carr got 90% of all the money, and the Raiders can't pay any good players. Yeah. Mr. Raider says, because we're bargain based, we're a bargain basement team. Ms. Zeitgeist, how are you? Ms. Zeitgeist says the Rams look frightening right now. Don't they though? And they're not afraid to spend the money, neither are the Bears. Black Lion says if Mac wins here, we would have been what? In fact, you know what? Speaking of which, I want to talking about the Bears. I want to see what the Bears, Chicago Bears, net operating income 2017. Chicago Bears net operating income in 2017, according to Forbes. Get that in a second. Now, remember, according to Forbes, the Raiders' 2017 net operating income was a paltry $41 million. Chicago Bears net operating income, according to Chicago Bears, was, holy cow, hold on a second, 114 million. Their revenue was 416 million versus 322 million for the Raiders. The Chicago Bears are a richer team. Okay. Their team valuation at this point is 2.85 billion. The net operating income is 114 million. So basically, the Raiders, do some little math here. The net operating income for the Chicago Bears is over 3 times that of the Oakland Raiders. Oakland Raiders is at 41 million. Chicago Bears is 114 million. All right. $114 million. Player expenses, get this, player expenses are the same as the Raiders, $198 million. All right. Gate receipts, $75 million. So basically, the Bears have more money. That's what I was saying. The Bears have more money. Their total revenue is $416 million. Their revenue, they don't have the they don't have the sponsorship revenue here. Okay. So basically, Khalil Mack went to a team that could afford him. And that's what is here. Sticking out like a sore thumb. That's what it is. Okay. So Mystic Raider says, we're going to resign to Amari Cooper next season before John Gruden and the company is about to be traded to the new team for more picks. Shaking my head. Let me rephrase that. He basically says that Amari Cooper is going to be traded for more picks. One stop says Patriots versus Niners Super Bowl. That could be. Cowboy Russia says Muhammad also helps when you have the third largest market. Tom Keller, how are you doing? Tom says, I think we can beat the Rams. This preseason wasn't that bad. Preseason's a different animal, man. Different animal. Mr. Raider says Bruce Irvin is also going to be resigning his new contract next year, and I want to keep beast mode for another 2 years. Jay Steele says Mack will be playing outside, backer getting burned. And he's versatile, but I don't see that happening. I really don't. I think the Bears are not going to put him in that situation. Ms. Zeitgeist says Chicago just dropped the most money for Mack. The Niners also wanted him. And I think the Niners would have dropped that kind of money. They're just across the bay, all right? So again, this has to do with management. And so Raider Gann says, Muhammad says, Oakland is surrounded by both tech and wealthy. There's something wrong if you can't get that. Exactly. All right, folks, it is now 1:33. I'm going to shove off as much as I don't want to, because there's like 61 of you here. Thank you. I mean, this is incredible. There was actually, we got to 83 tonight, I think, something like that. And yeah, I'm tempted to stick around and just, because I know it's Labor Day holiday, right? So, in fact, you know what? I'll stick around a little bit more, just a little bit. Let me go back to the, just a little bit, or the whole racial divide thing. I just want to see what the Undefeated is saying here, because I might have these guys on, all right? I want you to listen to this, and then I'm going to play something for you. It says, in the past few decades, critics have decried the way black players historically were blocked from playing quarterback in the NFL, an insulting and economically disenfranchising move. However, statistics show that times are changing, albeit way too slowly. And although the league's percentage of African-American signal callers increased from 18% to only 19% during a 14-year span analyzed by the Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sport, TIDES at the University of Central Florida, that's Dr. Lapchick. The emergence of young superstars such as Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, Dak Prescott, and others have proved over and over again, like Jameis Winston, my favorite, that these anachronistic ideas about leadership and intellect are no longer applicable. Warren Moon could write a book on it. Actually, he did. And Never Give Up Your Dreams, My Journey. Moon, the only African-American quarterback inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, chronicles the racism he encountered in the game. Most black players of his generation, and definitely those who came before Warren Moon, could tell similar disheartening stories. Repeatedly pushed to move to another position by coaches who assumed that he lacked the smarts to play the most important one in sports. Moon, believing he had the chops to lead, never gave up. So that's a great point. And then we talk about Doug Williams, and they say it's color-coded up the middle. The spotlight on quarterbacks apparently has the same effect on the center position. another up the middle, traditionally reserved for those who perceived as the most astute players. Despite a nearly 50% split along the offensive line at center, more than 81% of the players at center are white. Conversely, so that's what I'm saying. You guys are talking about percentages. Got nothing to do with that. It's how people are slotted. Conversely, cornerback is the blackest position in the NFL. 99.4% of the players are African American. On defense overall, roughly 80% of the players are black. Switching back to offense, among running backs, the numbers are also heavily tilted toward blacks. According to the annual Race and Gender Report card published by Tides, the NFL is almost 70% black and only 12.5% of running backs are white in the most recent year for statistics 2014, while the inverse was true for special teams positions of kicker and punter, where 97.8% of players were white. Why are those specialists overwhelmingly white? NFL insiders and observers, such as former offensive lineman and football historian Michael Orland, note that many are converted soccer players, and in the United States, that is a game played in the suburbs. Which, of course, explains why Christian McCaffrey is joked about being mistaken for a kicker. Most of the guys at those positions look like McCaffrey. His father, Ed McCaffrey, can relate for 13 seasons in the NFL. The elder McCaffrey excelled at wide receiver, another position at which few white players line up, let alone become franchise greats. In 2003, Ed McCaffrey's final season, only 14% of NFL wide receivers were white. His son enters the NFL at a time when white ball carriers are even harder to find than competent passers of any race. Okay, and so this is in the Undefeated. It has an NFL breakdown by race and position. This is worth reading. Harry Edwards has weighed in. In fact, you know what? I think I'm going to reach out to Harry Edwards. I really do. And Muhammad says there is a racial divide in certain positions. And Raider Gann says the race issue. Hey, Javier, thank you for the investment. And Raider Gann says this is going on. I'm going on for 4 hours. I've been on for 4 hours. Have I been on for 4 hours? I guess I have. Wow. This is one of the longer ones. But you know what? I mean, I didn't realize it's been 4 hours. No. Has it been? Well, this is not. It says 1 hour, 47 minutes, 48 minutes. Yeah, it says I've been live 1 hour, 48 minutes, and 6 seconds. All right. And so in luck, it says fullback's usually white. So it's not 4 hours. It's 2 hours. 2 hours. 2 hours. Jay Steele says one stop. So everybody's wrong but you. One stop. One stop. So everybody's wrong but you. Who's one stop? Anyway, Kepler Russell says Raider Gans, are you talking about the Broncos game last year? Let me see what you all are talking about. Who's one stop? One stop says they don't know what they're talking about because the 4-3 under looks like a 3-4. You have to know details. Actually, one stop is correct. I mean, I'm just seeing this, but the 4-3 under does look like a 3-4. Depending on how you place the ends, it doesn't have to. But basically, the 4-3 under, all the 4-3 under refers to is you've got, all right, this is the center here. 2 tackles, 2 ends, right? The 4-3 under, let's say that the tight end is over here, okay? The 4-3 under has the defense shifted to the weak side so that right here, the nose tackle is the tackle becomes a nose tackle. And note, you can leave these 2 guys here. So all the strong side tackle is doing is moving over to become the nose tackle. And so you have the bias on the weak side, hence under. All right. But if you want to make the 4-3 under look like 3-4, you simply move the defensive end and the tackle out one more. So then you have an Oklahoma look so that the defensive end over the tackle becomes the outside linebacker and the what was the defensive tackle becomes the end. You have this bubble area. When you have 2 bubble areas means the space where there's no defensive linemen, so that the guards are called uncovered. All right. So if you play the 4-3 under that way, it can look like a 3-4, but normally it doesn't look like a 3-4. It looks like, well, it looks like an under. Okay. All right. So, all right. And now we're 150. Okay. Yeah. Cowboy Wrestler says, Raider Gans, are you talking about the Broncos game? One Stop says, no, a few people call Fangio's defense correct. Raider Gans says, can't quite read comments. Eddie Willie says, great show, great topic. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that, Eddie Willie. I really do. Thank you very much. And thank you for understanding. Cowboy Wrestler says, Raider Gans, okay. It resulted in him getting hurt during the Week 4 game against Denver. You guys are talking about Mack, right? Mohammed says, whatever it is, Fangio got laid twice in a day with Mack signing. But think about it. The Bears get Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith. Oh, God. On paper, the Bears are going to be a terror. That is insane. Okay, I'm sorry. That is absolutely insane. All right. It says the two most important spots for the Raiders this year: the secondary and offensive tackles. If those two things improve drastically, we will win. I tend to think it's neither of those. I believe the Raiders' biggest issue is in overall speed or lack thereof. And to my mind, the Raiders need to get off the ball faster on offense. They don't, unlike the Ravens, they don't get off the ball fast enough to give me the comfort of saying that the Raiders are a Super Bowl caliber team. The one thing that I've noticed in my many years in association with the NFL is teams that get off the ball fast are the teams that generally march the playoffs and the Super Bowl. I noticed this first with the Ravens in 2000 with their defense. They got off the ball fast. The minute the ball was snapped, they were on you and in your backfield. And that was in preseason, okay? This Raider defense, I will say, has that speed. It has that reactive capability, and that's to the credit of Paul Gunther. But on offense, the Raiders do not reflect that kind of get-off speed. It just, to me, isn't something the Raiders seem to coach on offense. Gunther seems to coach the necessity of getting off the ball fast, getting into your gap, getting in the defensive line, into the backfield, controlling and forcing them to basically deal with you. I like that. It's what we've needed. So I think, but again, I said this before and I'll say this again. Right now, the Raiders have a good defense, but Khalil Mack signed would automatically make the Raiders a great defense. Automatic. And that's what the Raiders gave up, and that's what the Bears got. So, all right, so this has been, wait a minute. So you got Black Lion says, we are in the right scheme on defense. That's all that matters. Black Lion, I agree with you. That scheme gives us a fighting chance, okay? But again, it makes us good, but not great. The scheme gives us a fighting chance. But you and I both know, everybody knows watching this, that all year long, we're going to wonder if there's a big play, gee, would it have been different with Mack? You know that. Bill Jones says, Oakland's secondary is terrible. They play just like they just cut a second-round pick. Plus, they don't like Joseph. He's too small. Muhammad says, Roquan injured his hamstring. Oh, he did. I didn't realize that. Thank you. Wow, that's too bad. Luckett says, Carr ain't comfortable like he was 2 years ago. Raider Gann says, yeah, I agree. Carr can never get over that hit. I think to rely on Derek Carr himself is a big risk. And, oh, geez, Louise, do you realize here comes Derek Carr, and the Rams have to be thinking, all we have to do is get Derek Carr off the field, And if we get Derek Carr off the field, they have to bring in AJ McCarron, and it's game over. And the Rams have the newly signed Aaron McDonald, excuse me. So, wow. That's scary. Do you realize how scary that is? To go into that game knowing that you have one guy that you can rely on at quarterback. And if that one guy gets hurt, you are screwed. You don't have EJ Manuel. And they didn't talk about what happened to him. At least not in that press conference. One thing's for sure, somebody knows something. And I know EJ's got to be hurt because if you took a look at his Twitter account, he was retweeting all the great plays that he made against Seattle. And he had the Raider helmet in his Twitter logo. I feel sorry for him. I really do. Yeah. I mean, you have to take a look at this. This is all right. It is very sad to witness this. Here's a man who dearly wanted to be with the Raiders, and and you know what? And he hasn't changed his look. He hasn't changed his Twitter account. Take a look at this, okay? Take a look at this, folks. All right. This is see if I can get this aim right. There's the aim. If I can get it right there. Yep, there's the aim, and then we go here. Okay, there he is. Okay. See? This is EJ Manuel, all right? Look at that. Okay. This is
Day one at Seattle Children's. I was able to take her away and have her on Wine and Youth Foundation, and she's been we've been able to do so much with Seattle Children's. It's been a blessing for sure. And then and ultimately
he's got that one, and then he's got the game notes. EJ finished Thursday's game with a 154.5 QBR. Okay, quarterback rating. Okay. Got that number place. Retweeting third touchdown of the game. All right, he's retweeted that again. It's another one. All right. So my point is, so nice they did it twice. Okay. So this is a man, EJ Manuel, who was really pleased. I mean, really pleased with his play, and wanted to communicate that to the rest of the football world, right, on social media. And then all of a sudden he gets cut. That is nothing short of weird, okay? It is nothing short of weird. John Davis says, EJ, put EJ on the practice squad. I'm still not sold on him. And John Davis, I say you're wrong. But hey, you can be wrong. I'm right. Muhammad says, didn't Josh Johnson and Lynch make a YouTube video going over the team schedule? Well, he got out. Yeah, they did. Yeah. Josh Johnson did do that, but I don't know what the point of the video is. And Great Again says, I feel bad for Reggie. His power is getting stripped by a one-hit wonder coach. I think he may be next to leave. I don't think it's that. I think the problem is the Raiders don't have a lot of money, and it's causing some internal strain. And they don't know how to get that money. I think that's really the problem. I take John at his word. He says everybody's trying to divide us and all. And we're all together on this. I mean, look, we don't have a lot of money. You still have a lot of money. And that's where they're at. The Bears have 3 times the net operating income, according to Forbes last year, 3 times the net operating income of the Raiders. Now, you would say, what is net operating income, you would ask? It is revenue minus expenses. So what that means is that when you take your revenue and you subtract your expenses, what's left over, that's your net operating income. That's the money that you have to play with, a little bit extra to pay for players like Khalil Mack, that sort of thing. All right, that's what that means. The Raiders only have $41 million, and that was before John Gruden was signed to that huge contract. And the question, and see, John says he won't take $100 million, but he certainly took what, $10 million, right, already. Now he could have said, "Well, yeah, I just made $30 million from ESPN, or what? Well, yeah, $30 million contract." He could have said, "You know what? I got some money in the bank. I'll defer. I'll take $10 million of that, and I'll slide it over to Khalil." I don't know if that would have helped. Could have. You never. I mean, what's far apart? Were you 30 million apart, 40 million apart? How far apart were you? I mean, if the Raiders budgeted for it, if they only budgeted 30 million, that's ridiculous. The Raiders should have known better. All right, now officially been on 2 hours. 2 hours. All right. It is 1:51, and I'm signing off. I'll see you all tomorrow, and thank you all for participating in a very provocative 2 hours of live stream exchange on a very difficult weekend for Oakland Raiders fans everywhere. All right, thank you. See ya.